What a game. Let's talk about how the Celtics just took game one of this series. This is the photo of the night. This is Jaylen Brown's 3 to tie the game and send it to overtime, which ultimately led the Celtics to win this game. This was such a thrilling game. I didn't talk about this in the video, but my prediction that was the Pacers were going to steal game one. And they were right there. Like, if they don't let Jaylen Brown get that 3, they're there, like they win the game. So let's dive into this game, do a little bit of analysis, and let's start with the fact that the Celtics did have multiple double-digit leads, and the Pacers just fought back every time and ended up having, not a large lead to end the game, but they were up like 5 points, which is pretty good with like a minute to go. Here's why I picked the Pacers to steal game one. I thought, with especially Porzingis out, that the X factor and someone who would be big time in this series would be Miles Turner. Well, Miles Turner definitely, made my take age nicely because he was big time today. I mean, he was, 9 for 12 from the floor? Like, he was hitting every shot, and he had 20 plus points. I forgot how many he had, 24 points maybe. And he had like 10 boards. Like, he was exactly what he needed to be. And that's why the Pacers, I felt like, would win game one. And they were this close, they were about to win. It was a total team effort. Like, they got great contributions from Siakam. Halliburton hit some big shots, and Andrew Nembhard hit some big shots. Aaron Nesmith was everywhere on defense, diving for loose balls. But ultimately, the Celtics won in the end, and let's talk about why. I'm gonna say a big reason they won this game was Jrue Holiday. Now, Jrue Holiday, of course, they said scored the most points he scored all season. I think he ended up with like 26 points. He was very good all over the floor, scoring and stuff like that. But where he made his biggest contributions was on defense, especially, forcing Halliburton out of bounds on that play in overtime. Jaylen Brown made the biggest shot of the night in terms of saving the game. That's 100% true. But I think the biggest reason they won was because of Jrue Holiday. Because Jrue Holiday was making all the tough defensive plays. And again, he was obviously scoring a bunch as well, which was helping them when, honestly, down the stretch, like Jason Tatum was missing jumpers and Derek White missed a couple of jumpers. I think Derek White missed a 3 in the corner. Like, they weren't really making their shots, and they were taking really tough shots, especially Jason Tatum. He was taking like a couple of turnaround jumpers that, yes, he can make them, but they really were not the best shot. And so I feel like Jrue Holiday showed his championship experience, even though the Celtics as a team have a ton of experience because they've been to the finals and all that stuff. But I feel like Jrue Holiday really showed his championship experience when it felt like it was a little bit shaky for the rest of the team, even with the other experience that they have. Because there was one play also down the stretch, I forgot, I think it was on Andrew Nembhard maybe, but maybe it wasn't, but I don't remember who was on. He was backing, or maybe it was Halliburton. He was backing them down and just using his strength, and he made the shot. It was like a layup, basically. And that was just a play of, like, someone who's been there before, because he knew the time and score, and he knew how to slow it down and get a really good shot. And it was an easy layup, and it gave them 2 points. And the game was close at that point. I don't remember what the score was, but that was a really big play. And although the Pacers took a lead in overtime, and the Pacers had every opportunity to close this deal, they really did. But this is where the Celtics in general, their experience took over, because they were getting the stops they needed. Like, you just need one stop and then another stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, one stop at a time. And again, Jrue Holiday made a couple of those. But in general, they were just making sure that if the Pacers were getting a shot, at least it was like a tough shot, and they forced a few turnovers in overtime. And that's really what decided the ball game in the end, because the Pacers were making their shots. Like, they were still shooting very well from the field, and, they were just getting good shots, at least for them. But because the Celtics got a few turnovers on them, that's kind of what decided the game. That ball pressure just really got to the Pacers. And this is an experience that they will learn from. Obviously, the foul, or no foul rather, on the Jaylen Brown play is something that will be discussed heavily tomorrow. I personally think they should have fouled in general, because here's what I said while the game was going on. The Celtics had no timeouts. So I don't always agree with just fouling to foul, because it depends on, the team you're playing, the players who are on the floor, how much time is left, who has timeouts. To me, I feel like this was the perfect time to use one of those fouls so that they don't shoot a three and then, end up winning the game, because the Celtics had no timeouts. There was about, I think, 8 seconds on the clock or so. So if they had fouled, let's just say Boston, let's just say it was Jaylen Brown, for example. Jaylen Brown shoots 2 free throws. Let's say he makes both of them. There's a scenario where he misses, but let's just say he makes both of them. The Pacers are still up 1. The Pacers had a timeout. So not only could the Pacers advance the ball, and so they don't have to, bring it in on Boston's side of the court, which is something I want to talk about too. Let me try to remind myself to say something about that. But they get to bring it on their side, so they're closer to the basket. And when they get it in, they'll be fouled right away. And then let's say they make 2 shots. Now they're up 3 again. Now the Celtics have no timeouts. They have to go the length of the floor and get a 3 basically to win the game. And while that's definitely possible, when you have to go the length of the court, the chances of you getting a better shot than what they did out of, drawn up out of an inbounds play where it's just easier and they're on their side of the court, that gives them a better opportunity to get a 3 than, we've seen players make 3s on a pull-up 3 from half court and stuff like that, but I feel like the Pacers would have had a better chance that way. Or again, they could have fouled again. I don't necessarily agree about fouling again at that point, but maybe. Okay, I remember what I wanted to talk about because I said it in the previous clip. There was an inbounds play, and I feel like this was also one of the deciders of the game, and this also spoke to the Pacers' inexperience. I don't remember who was inbounding the ball. I really don't think it was Halliburton. It might have been Andrew Nembhard, or it might have been TJ McConnell. I don't remember who it was, to be honest. But the ball was being thrown to Siakam. Well, the ball ended up being thrown to Siakam. You never throw the ball in an inbounds play, especially at the end of the game right here. They threw it towards the Celtics basket, and it ended up going off Siakam, and it became Boston's ball. And while that didn't directly lead into a shot, obviously, because Boston had to take it out of bounds and stuff like that, if you throw it in the direction of their basket, there was a good chance that Jaylen Brown could have stole that ball, and it could have been a layup. And, then the game could have been completely different. And I know Boston ended up winning anyway, but you never do that. And obviously I'm not an NBA player, and I'm not just blaming the team and just saying that's why they lost. Of course not. And, they played really hard the whole game. I'm not criticizing necessarily anybody in particular, but I feel like that was just an inexperienced play, or just a lapse of judgment. You never throw it towards the opponent's basket, or I guess your basket, depending on how you look at it. But the basket where your opponent scores, because what if they stole it and then it's a layup, and then who knows what was going to happen? Because this was down the stretch also. I know this was towards the end of the game. So that was something that was a really big mistake in my opinion. And it's something that they'll learn from, and they probably won't do it again. But with the Celtics, this was a really great win for them. We haven't seen them win many close games, so it is good to see, if you're a Boston fan, to see them win a close game and kind of come from behind in the end. So that is definitely a good sign. I still personally, and I've said this all year, I still don't know if I trust Boston. It's not personal. The team has so many good players, and I love Drew Holiday, Derek White. Who doesn't love Al Horford, right? So it's not about that. It's the fact that, yes, they ended up closing the deal tonight, but they were this close to losing game 1 at home, and they just keep losing home games. And they're going to lose their home court advantage eventually. And the Pacers don't really lose at home. So that could be really, really bad if the Celtics lose a game at home. So I'm not rooting against anybody. I'm just saying, it's a little scary if you're a Boston fan.